All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share the, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to share. Options. Share contents, okay. I'm going to share file. So I will share my files here. So I will share. Okay, as everybody knows, we have the agenda for today. And, oh, Jim Hart is Mary B. Jim, can you hear us? You can. Can you say something so we can hear you?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so I wanted to point out that we have the videos for the last month's meeting. If you want to see the Fairfax County's Fire and Rescue Services presentation, the video is here. And the video of our meeting concerning the A-gap Chantilly House rezoning and special exception is here. So these are the two videos. On Wednesday, next Wednesday, we'll be meeting with the Sully District Council's membership. The featured speaker, Karen Camplin, Sully Transportation Advisor. And we're going to hear about the comprehensive plan amendment for housing. That will be done. And the featured speaker tonight is Evelyn Spain, the Sully District Planning Commissioner.
Kind.
All right.
Kind, really. It's not all of that.
All right, so here's two things.
You've already had Jim, so you already know what we
We
do.
have the online survey available on the Route 29 corridor. So please complete that if you're interested. Friday, the March 1st is the last day. Park Authority launched this equity survey to help park access. That's going to be until the 1st of April. You can serve on the Fairfax County Board of Zoning Appeals and join Jim. The more Sully residents, the better we are. And here's the information about that. We have a Sully district budget town hall scheduled for Thursday, February 29th. We asked to co-sponsor it. Mike Coyle says we would be co-sponsoring it, but in the announcement in the Sully newsletter that Kathy Smith sent out, our name is not mentioned, so I have to find out whether that's going right or wrong. We have the National Consumer Protection Week coming up as well. Here's information will be at the Sully Community Center on Monday, March 4th. And next month, we're going to have the school budget town hall is what I'm planning to do. If not, we'll have our own. And we have the Cornerstones Plan Amendment next month. And we may have other things, but that's what we're planning. So 18 March for that, and for the Land Use and Transportation Joint Committee, and the Sully Council meeting, if we do co-sponsor, will be the last day of February or -1 March. Okay, it's not the first of March, it's -1 March.
Oh, so leap year. Oh, yeah.
Say, or what's it was called in Little Apple? There was a name, Sadie Hawkins' name?
Sadie Hawkins say.
Sadie Hawkins. That's it. Okay.
For the
those of
girls,
you who
ask the
remember-
guys to the dance.
Okay, that was it. That's it. There you go.
Advertise, then we can see it.
But we'll try that in Sadie Hawkins. Okay, but that's years ago. And all right, so all right, I'm going to stop sharing now. And stop. Okay, now I'm going to change this around so that we get a better view of our featured speaker. And this is the better view, right? Hey, thank you, joining me. And I here. This down. Okay, so we're going to have needing the further introduction. I will explain the most recent, current, and longest serving planning commission under Kathy Smith's tenure, which is an accomplishment. No, nothing else. Okay, so with that, Evelyn, thanks for coming and joining us.
Thank you for inviting me tonight. As I was mentioning earlier, you know everything that the planning commissioner does because you had Jim Hart, so that's the expert of it on this agenda. But Today, I just wanted to share with you a day in the life of the planning commissioner. And yes, I am under Kathy, but let me tell you a little bit about my background because you've seen me at a couple of meetings, but I haven't really spoken. And when I saw your Westfield High School Bulldogs, I remember when my daughter, we've been here. I moved here back in 2003. My husband, my daughter, and myself lived in Virginia Run for about 18 years. My husband then passed. I sold the house and moved down the street here, not too far. I wanted to stay in the Sully district because I had become comfortable with it. I'm originally from New York, lived in Atlanta. I've been around. So but I've been very comfortable here in the Sully district. I know,
Georgia.
I know, I've just lost everything. Okay. The Southern. Okay. Well, only when I get angry, the New York part comes out.
Which is
Okay.
actually a good time.
Which is a good time, yes, sir. So, like I said, we moved here. My daughter went to, Stone. She went to Stone Middle School and then Westfield. And I remember being at Westfield as she was a senior. So I bought one of her shirts and she was so embarrassed. I was on the PTA and they had the nice black shirts like that, but it had Westfield seniors. Well, now that was because she was a senior, 12th grade. But now I am the senior. So it's so appropriate when I wear it and I say, I'm not Westfields, but I'm the senior in the family. So that's nice. I participated in several organizations, PTA. I was a PTA president when I first met Kathy, when Mia's my daughter, when she was at Stone Middle School. And that's how I became acclimated with her. I'm a part of the Fairfax County NAACP. Just recently became a member of the Westfield, the Westfield BO Business Owners Association. Just because I live in the area and they want not only the business people, but they want a little bit of input from those residents around.
Being the planning commission is very
Hmm?
Being that you're the planning commission, it's going to be ventured into that mission.
Okay, thank you. Also, let's see what have I done. Oh, so I first met Supervisor Smith when I was PTA president. We developed a relationship, well, we would invite her to various events that the NAACP was having. Moved forward, I would then have an opportunity to interview for the Sully District Planning Commissioner. I interviewed the first time, I believe Dante Tanner went out. Oh, no. The first time Karen Keys Gamara, or was it Dante? Dante won first, then she had Karen Keys Gamara, and then finally on my third time was a charm, she nominated me to be the planning commissioner. So like Jim said, this is my second term. This is the longest, I've served the longest under Supervisor Smith. I would also work as an IT process engineer at a small company in Falls Church. So I've since retired from there. And so now my full-time or my part-time focus is my professional alliance with the Planning Commission, along with some other community activities that I perform. So I wanted to share with you, and I'm sure Jim already knows this, but a day in the life of the planning commissioner. First of all, we meet every week, every Wednesday we're meeting, and we're talking about all of the land use or new development that's going on in each of the districts in Fairfax County. So we have your Providence, you have your Drainsville, Braddock, Springfield, Franconia, Sully, and I always forget one. Did I get one? I think I got them all. Yeah. Providence, yeah. And Hunter Mill, excuse me, and Hunter Mill. When there are hearings on any development or rezoning issues or special exceptions or sign amendments, all of the commissioners are expected to be comfortable or at least aware of what the application is about, where to go through it and compare it to what the comp plan says is as a guidance of what we should expect in each of the areas. But even though we don't have the final say, we do recommend or not recommend that it goes forward for approval or not approval for the planning commissioners. So a lot of the things that we look at are, we look at the stormwater. You know, that's one of the big areas that Commissioner Cortina is very, very intimate with. The lead certification. Well, in my previous job, I did certifications in process in IT. So I'm very interested in making sure that we are compliant with all this new development, that they are lead certified in some form or fashion. We also look at, that's the green building. One of the things that I pride myself on is a lot of people don't know about planning commissions. You guys probably do, but there are a million people in Fairfax County, and I guarantee you, they're not as intimately knowledgeable about the planning commissioner or even what the supervisor does as far as land use. So it's been a privilege to me to educate those in my other organizations about what goes on. And when they see those yellow signs propped up against the building, you'd be amazed how many people have no idea what that actually means. And so I would help them understand it's giving you information about the new development that's coming, what the development is, what the hearing date is for the planning commissioner, and when the board of supervisors will hear the plans for the new development or the rezoning or the special exception. So I really take a lot of interest, and I've shared that knowledge with people in Delaware, because I actually network with a lot of the people in the Planning Commission in that state, because I used to live there for a period of time. What else do we do? On a particular, I'm sorry, I'm going to put my notes here. It's important to it's an important position, even though sometimes we don't feel like it, because I know there was a lot of controversy around the data center. There's a lot of controversy around the airport noise. We hear what the Sully District Council is saying. However, we take into account the concerns that you have, and then we look and compare, are we compliant with the comp plan? Because that's our guidance. A lot of times we normally will err on the side of, is it compliant with the comp plan? We know that a lot of times we're not, the community is not happy with the final decision, but we are using the guidance of the comp plan that was designed, maybe, and right now the planning staff is in the process of updating the policies, the strategic plans. We've added the health and equity plans to the strategic plan. So there are a lot of updates that are going on. We know we have a lot of improvements to make, but we're there. We're trying as best we can. Normally, when we have a hearing, a public hearing, it's on a Wednesday. And then during that, before I get to that Wednesday, I've already been notified of the applications that are going to be heard that Wednesday night. So next Wednesday, we're not hearing any this Wednesday because of the President's Day holiday. Next week, I've already got 3 cases. One of them is in the Sully district, the Costco down the street. You know that they want to not only add more gas terminals, but they want to expand the tire. What is that? The tire and auto. Yeah. So I'll have a meeting with the representative of Costco, and he'll go through with me what their plans are, why they're making the plans, and what they plan to do. Once I review that, I'm also talking to the PDP, the planning person or staff, to say, are they compliant with the comp plan? Do they meet with your approval? Now, yes, we can say, even though it meets with the staff's approval, we're in disagreement because you don't have enough tree buffer, or you haven't considered solar energy, or there are a lot of different reasons why we may or may not agree. But for the most part, we've already spoken to them, and we already have told them that these are concerns that we have based on what we've heard from the community, based on what we've learned in the comp plan, and whether or not we will agree or disagree. Another thing that we do, are there any questions so far?
Also one.
All right. Okay, you're gonna stop me. Huh? Okay. So on Thursday nights, we meet with various members of we have special committees that we meet with. So we have a standing committee meeting for the policies and procedures for all of Fairfax County. We have the Personnel and Budget Committee that all of us are members of. And so we would meet, our planning commission meetings are 7:30 every Wednesday. The special committee meetings are mostly every Thursday, excuse me, my eye is watering, mostly every Thursday, 7:30. And we meet for an hour at a time. We meet with the Land Use Committee, Parks, CIP, Environmental Land Use Process Review Committee, Schools, Housing, and Telecommunications. The new thing about the telecommunications is I think we're going to we have changed the name to infrastructure, and we're talking about all the public facilities. We've included the data centers, not the parks, but the public facilities like the libraries and item areas like that. And that's basically what we do. We are not allowed to talk amongst ourselves with more than two of us. Otherwise, you get to do a FOIA request because we're in violation of FOIA. We should never be discussing anything regarding two planning commissioners can only be together at one time. If it's three of us, we're in violation
So
of.
what happens like you attend a banquet like you did for the Jim Hart and other planning commission members had a retirement at the Marriott. It was last year and the year before. Is that a FOIA relatable event? You weren't discussing topics, you were there celebrating other people.
Right, we had made notice that we had to make public notice that we will be at and at that time, let's see, I think we could have three. But at that time, we have to make public notice that there will be more than two of us around and what the meeting is about. So the public knows that we are not discussing anything that relates to planning commission, to our particular cases. Yes. Any other questions?
We were at the meeting with Kathy discussing because of that area. This. At that time, she mentioned something about some work being done with. She said there were 6 parts that we would do. And I mentioned one. She was unable to tell me anything about it. She said she was geographic challenge. Don't tell me whether that property pretty rich. We were Bible, clean up, some new construction going on in the park area. Kind of interested, about those. You can talk about it. Not several parts of it. That's one of the rest of it. There are 6 parks, one more parks in the area.
EC Lawrence area or Sully overall, like your frying pan? Mhm.
One of those things. That's what I hate. That's the one that so,
Okay, Hickory Forest Park. And where is that located?
on the southwest edge of the park, between us and Bull Run. Very interesting. That park. 67 acres that being the wrong association donated to the county, knowing that the county would then bring the we want to be sure that that pays some part of it to go. The donations.
You don't want it to be developed into some housing or
Well,
whatever.
you know, well,
Okay,
I don't see soccer parks and different cycle recreation. Right now, it's considered passive. Like any passive recreation. I'm very concerned about the bus for the 200 of our homes. Terribly just rock to us.
Jay, has there been discussion of that?
Yeah, well, again, I asked the question of Kathy, and she talked about there being 6 parks, so it would be in some stage of development. And she said, I'm geographically challenged. She didn't know what I was talking about.
You need to speak to Gold Black, Gold Blood, Godblood.
Godball,
Maggie,
Maggie Godball.
who's our planning, who's our parks commissioner. So she'd probably be in a better position.
Then, yeah, then
Kathy, if
Kathy.
Kathy's geographically challenged, Maggie should not be. She's spoken to us before as the Parks Authority member to our group, and I think you should contact her.
But I don't think she's parks anymore. I think she's moved up to budget or something. She's changed her positions.
With Kathy?
I believe so,
So
yeah.
who is our parks?
I'm not sure, Jim. I can find out for you, but I don't think it's Maggie anymore.
Yeah, well, and that's maybe one kind of maybe a general comment, because we know that people move from position to position. I think all of us have had, over the course of our career, different jobs in different parts of the country, as you have. I think sometimes we see, and when you hear about things, second and third hand, and say, gee, we never heard that. So I think kind of a broader distribution, particularly appointees serving the Sully district community, broader Sully district community, would be very helpful to us. I think, just as a personal comment, I think it's somewhat surprising to hear that our board of supervisor member, who has held that position for several terms now, seems to still be somewhat geographically challenged where certain activities of importance to a larger community are physically located. That's personally a little troubling to me. I mean, I know my wife says she's a little bit geographically challenged, right? Driving or something, but she can kind of figure it out. We've lived here for long enough. It's easy to do. She'll remember, oh yeah, there used to be XYZ at that location. Yeah, it changed or whatever. But I think that's something, I don't know how the supervisor gets a better feeling for that. I mean, if she wants, I'm sure some of us would be more than happy some weekend or something. So, okay, well, let's go take a tour. Let's drive around for a better part of the day. If there's things you've heard about, but you're not quite sure where it is or how that activity relates to surrounding communities, we can show you that in 15, 20 minutes.
Yes. In fact, Louis and I would do that all the time.
Yeah.
We would go, here are 4 things that are happening, and there was a trail that we actually explored, which was, but in addition to what you just said about that, the Sully district has many people appointed by Kathy Smith to various boards, commissions, and advisory groups. And it was about 2 or 3 years ago, we invited 2 or 3 of these appointees to address us. And when we did that, we got pushback saying these people aren't used to speaking in front of groups. And it occurred to me that if they were representing the Sully district population in front of whatever organization they're talking about, they ought to be prepared to speak to Sully residents about what they're doing. And if they could not speak to us in general, we've invited Maggie, as I said, when she was a Parks Authority. We invited the person who was the library member. We invited the school board member. We've invited you. We're going to invite the Transportation Advisory Commissioner for Sully and others. We've invited the Housing and
Housing redevelopment.
Redevelopment Authority. These people who represent us, who have information that we might think would be worthwhile. And if people are in that position and shy to speak to organizations like us, that's a problem because they're representing us. And we don't expect Kathy to have the knowledge that they do on the topics they're talking about, because Kathy sometimes you just quote. But these people are at the meetings, and we would hope that they would have no problem speaking to us about what they did. Now, that's just something that I was surprised to get that pushback from. Now, we haven't done that in a couple of years. This year, we've invited you, we're going to invite, as I say, Karen, and there'll be others in the course of the year that we'll invite to our meetings. And we expect that if they represent Sully, they should be able to speak to Sully. I mean, because they're not only serving Kathy may have appointed them, but they speak for Sully. And they probably don't speak necessarily for Kathy, because they don't coordinate with Kathy on one-to-one. This is what's coming up and what should I say? Just like you, theoretically, you are your own authority and vote as you see fit.
Yes, we do not have to vote according to what we think the supervisors, but what we have researched and compared with the comp plan and whether or not it's compliant.
Which is what we would expect any representative to a broad authority or commission. That's it, back.
Back forward. I like that. And so coming out of this meeting, would you like me to, I know when we are appointed to the positions, we have a role to that committee, to that board, to that authority, right? And I don't mind coming to speak to an audience. In fact, I like informing people of what it is that we do so that they can get an understanding of our role. Other people may be not so comfortable speaking.
And it's also the fact that some of the citizens aren't familiar about what the responsibilities are of commissioners and supervisors. We had that happen when we had a meeting here where the citizens were, pitchforks and torches, as I say. Because we tell them, this is not the position, this is not the person, this is not what you're doing, this is not a government, especially when they meet with us. This is not a government activity. We're doing this, all of us are being paid zero for a time. Yeah, and we're doing this for the sake of argument, and we have to tell the other citizens, and you've been some of these meetings, we've seen people red faced, we've told them, calm down, stand down, because this is not the venue where that should be discussed.
Okay.
And luckily, all of us here have many years of experience of our own.
But every year I give a local land use transportation maybe update to Sully Station HOA just gave. My last slide is Karen, Kathy, and Neil. Because I was like, if you have any complaints, they go to them. Because they're the ones who are elected or appointed officials. I'm just an advisor. Like you can bring it to me and you can email, I can put it back to me.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you guys are held responsible for Sully District and Karen is for delegate. So,
Mm-hmm.
And I throw it up there every year. It's like, please let your elected officials and your appointed officials know what you think. Not me.
And that might be a good time for we to put something in there that kind of explains to the city some of these positions, duties, and responsibilities. So that the citizen knows, like Jim says, don't call Jim, call.
And posts come out what? Every week?
Every week, yeah.
Every week.
Yeah, I get her. I mean, maybe she could do one position a week or something.
Yeah.
Just to
I mean, if you go over to 3 cents.
Right.
I mean, people don't read 5 paragraphs.
Yeah, but it is, I think it is very important, because when you think about it, you know, if you look at the total population of the county is like 1.2 million plus or minus. Okay. So you figure, okay, well, that says over 10 districts, 120,000 plus or minus in each district. That's a pretty good sized city. If you picked it up and dropped it anywhere in the country. So you say, okay, well, if you're the person who is the elected board supervisor member of that area of this county, you're basically functioning as the mayor of that 110,000 person community. So you're making a point with all these committees, all these departments and everything, you know, tell your constituents who elected you who they are, what they do. And if they have a question about whatever, housing redevelopment, parks, transportation, whatever, call person X or person Y or person Z. And I think all of us around this table are one that be interested to put, one who could take some push pins and put on the map and show you where we are. We're distributed fairly well across Sully District. Not maybe as broadly as we'd like to be in some areas, but it's not like we don't all live in Virginia Run. Only he lives.
Oh, is that right? You're the only one? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I saw that news, that nice booklet come out for all those years. Mhm.
Well, in fact, when 10 years ago, the town of Chantilly, France wanted an American representative, they wanted the mayor of Chantilly, and they invited Mike Fry. Mike Fry went there, Carrie Delaney, the Chantilly branch library manager, because that was the Chantilly, it was in Sully, Chantilly Heights is not in Sully. And I tagged along as the spouse of the library
Very cool.
branch manager.
And where was this? You went to France?
We went to Chantilly, France.
Wow.
I'll show you the slides and pictures of it. We represented 2 years before, during Chantilly Day, the people from Chantilly, the mayor of Chantilly, came and visited us. And they extended the turn to him. And we were there on Armistice Day 2014 to not commemorate, but to honor the veterans and those who died during the war. I'll send you the link to the page.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, good.
Jeff,
Yeah.
can
Hello?
can I say something?
Please go right ahead. Jim, right there.
I got a feeling.
I couldn't hear every word, but I have to correct you, Jeff, on 2 things.
Go ahead.
It's not Chantilly, it's Chantilly.
I know, but I don't
It's not-
speak with.
It's
And
not
said-
Sully, it's Sully. Sully and Chantilly, like Centreville.
I stand corrected, but I will not lose my American accent. And is it Arkansas or Kansas? Please tell me the proper French pronunciation of those two.
I'm no expert on that.
We can, see, we can.
I didn't hear exactly, because Jay is real good at holding his hand over his mouth.
Sorry.
I couldn't hear the discussion on Hickory Forest Park, but let me throw in my 2 cents and why something like that's important and maybe make a helpful suggestion. To the extent that Evelyn or any appointee can spend time kind of on the sidelines, at least at meetings like this, I think it helps bring everyone together, and it makes the opposition to so much of what has happened the last few years, I think, much more understandable. And I think there's a perception that, among other things, the Occoquan downzoning is an extremely low priority. And something like Hickory Forest Park, which is one of the most significant or environmentally sensitive places in the county with a globally rare forest. And our supervisor doesn't even know where it is. She is clueless on so much of what happened with the Occoquan downzoning. And there have been so many actions over and over, incrementally weakening the downzoning and going exactly contrary to what's in the comprehensive plan. And I think if she had some rudimentary awareness of what had happened and what the comp plan says about so many of these things, we wouldn't have so much of this tension. And I don't know that this isn't really the time or place. I mean, so many bad things have happened, but Hickory Forest Park ought to be, or the rest of Sully Woodlands, they ought to be things that someone that's making decisions on land use should know where it is and what kind of plants are there and what kind of streams and how it affects water quality. And we wouldn't have things like proposals for breweries on Bull Run Post Office Road across the street, something that Kathy loves and something that the comp plan prohibits or should prohibit. At least the text does. We ought not be rationalizing things like that, or things like agritourism to bust the downzoning and create a by right commercial use anywhere in the RC, something that had been forbidden for 40 years, or something like the Route 28 bypass, which no matter what lies are told, is not on the comp plan, not the new route, the new bridge, the widening of it, nothing. Uphill and upstream from the reservoir, going through the RC without a public hearing, without an amendment to the comp plan. Something like that awful jug handle on Braddock Road, which was the worst environmentally of several bad alternatives, never had a public hearing. It is the exact opposite of what's on the comp plan. And again, and there are others, and you've got other things to talk about, but so many of these bad things, I think, upset people's expectations because the citizens expect that the elected officials or whoever, they're going to follow the comp plan. They're not just going to give it lip service, and they're certainly not going to do the opposite. Anyway, be that as it may, I think to the extent that appointees can participate in meetings like this, they'll hear at the baseline, I think, citizens' concerns and maybe some of the history of how we got to these points in the comp plan, why the text says what it says, and why it's so awful to go against the comp plan so many times. Discussions like this in committees like this don't need to be so adversarial. And I think that for whatever reason, Ron Cook came to the meetings for 25 years or something. Litzenberger came to the meetings. Dante came to most of the meetings, but we've kind of gotten away from that. And I've always found, and I don't have many Sully cases anymore with BZA, but I've always found that listening in the meetings, I appreciated a lot more what the citizens' point of view was, even if I didn't agree with it always. Anyway, I was just going to correct your French pronunciation, Jeff, but I don't know exactly what you said about Hickory Forest Park, but that was my 2 cents.
Thank you, Jim. I stand corrected.
That was a long explanation. That was a long correction.
So, 4 or 5 years ago, Kathy got reelected her second time, reelected the first time. She brought both the Western Fairfax County Citizens Association and the Sully District Council Citizens Association together and said, we don't want to have two separate land use meetings. We also don't want to have your land use meetings on Wednesday night when they conflict with the planning commission. So we moved it to Monday night. Fine. And the reason, the rationale for Monday night was that it didn't interfere with somebody who was working on the
Yes.
That was the rationale Kathy gave us. It could not be either on Wednesday or Thursday. We picked
Yes.
Monday.
Yeah.
We picked the third Monday, which happens to be holidays 3 times a year. But we don't. Like today, I don't think any of us here were, oh my God, I'm missing my Presidential Day holiday.
Well, I missed to say it
Uh-oh.
just because of that.
And now they just go online and you have it from midnight.
Yeah, you still have it till midnight.
But that's the point that we, so, you know, and.
And can I
we appreciate
respond?
the-
I will respond. I have, I used to come more frequently at the beginning. So there's no excuse. So I will try to make the third Monday meetings from this.
In a month in advance.
Yes,
You'll look like for today,
yes.
I said that the notice that we have the facility at Route 50 in West Ox to discuss.
Mhm.
And we try to have people register for the committee. I created that CPI script so that I wouldn't have to ask people what to do
Mhm.
and be popular on that basis. And I'm glad we do because I don't think many other land use and transportation committees ask people to register.
Mhm.
And the Sully Land Use and Transportation Committee is an independent group. I know that there is a land use committee run through the Albert's,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
I know that in other districts, the representatives are appointed by the respective supervisor. And I know that in some districts, they don't have enough commonality between the groups. They can have a district. If you try to look at Drains, you've got McLean, you've got Great Falls, you've got Herndon, and near the
Yeah, they are not the same.
speak because, and so when we look for our counter partner across the boundary between us and Drains, there's no person we can speak to. Because there is no representation of the area north of the creek. They're not Herndon, they're not Drains, they're not Great Falls, they're different enough thing. So who represents us community? Hundreds of people are moving into those townhouses and houses and condos right at the corner of Sunrise and Foxville, right?
Yep.
And we had a big discussion because our boundary was just south, and we were told to stay out of the drain schools business, even though it was across the street from ours. We think if you're across the street from us, you're our business. Because you're facts. We've met with Parity and has always told us that there was things in Springfield that are of interest to us, recommends. And on that discussion we're having next month, he's already published the Sully Council meeting in his Springfield newsletter, encouraging people with more information, go to the Sully Council. So, I mean, we have been friendly relationships with many of our districts or district councils. Some that have no district council. There is no, we're always looking for a partner.
So let me ask you a question. So you're saying in Drainsville, there is no direct contact for the district council?
There is no district council because the 3 entities are all self-governing and don't give a heck about anybody else. If you see what I'm saying, and you say, Great Falls, McLean, and Herndon do not coordinate. And if we look at, for example, Hunter Mill, you've got the towns, the people who live near Vienna, the people who live in Reston, and there's the Reston Association, there's the Reston Civic Association. You have the people who, but there is no Hunter District Council. So the vast unwashed part of Hunter Mill that isn't Reston and isn't Vienna has no entity to speak to. Okay?
Although there was a situation a few years ago when a development proposal came through us because our eastern boundary at that time was along
Hunter Mill Road.
Hunter Mill Road. And it was a proposal for a nursing center with a, shall we say, a rather innovative / exotic / totally unrealistic waste treatment system.
Not on county sewage.
No. And it was a situation where we had a couple of, very large crowd here for discussion on that, including several people in opposition to that proposal with advanced degrees in medicine, chemistry, related topics, who were saying there is no way you can treat these wastes with all the medications that are going to be coming through these people and have that safely put into the aquifer system.
And these people are on wells.
Yeah.
Enjoy their food, their water. So that was across the middle road, which is our boundary. So we became the full. Because our people on this side of the road and people across the street came over. We spoke with that. There were some people that were afraid of police protection or things like that. They just.
Jeff?
Yes.
I can't hear every word, but on the case that Lou is talking about, I think the citizens played a very constructive role, and it helps to have multiple sets of eyes looking at something. That particular property it was across the street from Sully. It was in Hunter Mill, but the lot was across the street from I can't think of the neighborhood, but along Hunter Mill Road. Anyway, that site had been very controversial. The BZA, one of my first cases, we had approved the Zoroastrian temple on that site, which was a very controversial case. Marie Trevesky was she wasn't an attorney, but she got the approval through. She had been a Springfield supervisor, but became a land use consultant after. The neighbors, some of them opposed it. It went to court. It was in court for many years. It never got built, but the approval was upheld. When the nursing facility came back through with the medications going into the septic tank and whatever else they had, and all the scrubbing and cleaning and chemicals for the bathrooms, they keep cleaning them every few hours and whatever. There were a lot of concerns about the septic field. What killed that case ultimately was that some of the neighbors studying the drawings, not the staff, but the neighbors, identified that the applicant had left off a stream where the reserve septic field was going to go. It was an improper place for a reserve septic field. That site was not large enough for a building of that size with parking and septic fields and everything else they had to have. If it hadn't been for the citizens, and I think somebody hired an outside engineer, as I recall, they found, I think they called it the hidden stream or the missing stream or something like that. But through these discussions, and we had them, and I think some of the Hunter Mill people did too, but I know we had offsite meetings, Sully District Council did. The neighbors identified an engineering constraint, a stream on the site that the applicant hadn't disclosed. The drawings at the BZA 25 years ago had the stream. The drawings at the Planning Commission a few years ago did not. They found the stream, and because of the stream, they couldn't put the septic field where they had it, and the application went away. And if it hadn't been for those citizens, maybe everything would have been approved. And maybe somebody remembers more than I do, but the citizens had a role in that, in protecting the aquifer, protecting the neighbors' wells, and everything else. And the concerns, I think, now about PFAs going into the groundwater and into the reservoir are greater than they were then. PFAs are not regulated in land use in Virginia, and the staff is like, well, we don't regulate that, so we're not going to pay attention to it, even though other jurisdictions in other states probably have. I'm going on and on, but the citizens made a difference on that case.
Thank you very much, Jim. The other thing I wanted to point out is that going back to the formation of the Sully Council itself in 1992, when Sully was generated, Sully went all the way to Shirley Gate, thereabouts. All of 90% of the Fair Lakes development was in Sully. We went down to Route 29, almost to Wakefield. And as Sully became more populated, our borders retreated. So Greenbrier was in Sully for a long while. Our Sully Parks Authority member no longer lived in Sully, Andy Lawless, I think his name was, but he was a Greenbrier resident that Mike had appointed, and he and Mike got along so well that when Sully retreated from Greenbrier, Andy Lawless still remained as a Sully Parks Authority member. And so we have had knowledge of development in a larger portion than what is purely Sully now. There's a memorial at the fire department's training center off of West Docks Road that we built and funded in honor of those men from and women from Fairfax who went to, I think, the bombing in Oklahoma City. When our Sully rescue team was there, we put a sign up honoring the fact that these men had gone there. It's no longer in Sully, but the plaque still says Sully District Council. So Fair Lakes Mall, all in Sully. And we therefore have an interest in areas outside of our purview because we were instrumental in helping them be what they are now. So we have a residual memory of, hey, so there are interests that we have that are purely within our geographic boundaries because we were involved.
And Loudon too.
Was that now?
And Loudon
County
too.
too.
Yeah, we never were part of Loudon, but we have held, in fact, we used to call it transportation and planning in the Tri-County area. And we would invite people from Loudon, Prince William, and Fairfax County and put them in this room and say, guys, gals, tell us how you coordinate traffic and planning on this corner, which touches all three counties. So, this county, and we did it twice. Maybe we should do it again sometime in next winter and plan it. It takes a long time to get everybody agreed. But we had productive sessions, and some of those sessions, we doubted those people had never spoken before. Though they said they had corresponded, but we wanted them in the same room.
And members of this group are also involved in the Prince William County's data centers. Steve and I have been, we have been on meetings with them and talked with them, and I wouldn't say advised them, but lended our support. As a board member of Virginia Run, I fully supported them in fighting that issue off of Manassas battlefield.
And also the Devlin.
The Devlin Center.
That one's awful.
I mean, we fully supported that because again, it was, Jim talked about the Occoquan Downs zoning, our path, and then you have what they were supposed to do in what they call the rural crescent. That was their contribution to that in Prince William County. And now they're trying to destroy it, which is sad. 2,100 acres of prime real estate. Granted, it's prime real estate, but it's beautiful country, and why it should be ruined by a bunch of data centers beyond me.
It'll now be the concrete crescent.
It'd be called, that's right.
And I wanted to take feedback off that. So my question, I don't remember, was the planning commission's position on the recent one that changed out, did they approve that one?
Yeah.
We don't approve.
Oh, wow, you recommended that one? Because we were requesting, first of all, I thought the height of the building was much,
It's taller than the other buildings in the surrounding
yeah,
area.
so we thought that might have been an exception to the common plan.
They did do a special exception for that,
Yeah.
for the height.
We felt very strongly against that one. It's a huge building. It's 1/5 the size of
of Tyson's Corner. That building is 1/5 the size of Tyson. On the street. And there was also the question of I thought infrastructure was supposed to exist. There's no electrical. There's no,
It's
no
not part of the
existing.
It is gonna be another hearing that will deal with the infrastructure, the electrical.
Yeah, but I thought that was.
It's a little too late. I mean,
It will be.
and again, it was another part of the legislation that was going forward in the state. And part of the recommendation that came out of the data center study, that those things should be done in advance, and we should know exactly where the electricals are going to be, where the substations are going to be. But, you know, now we've got the data center going without having a location of the electrical. So how much territory is that going to tear up? And if I can, were you at that meeting when you voted for,
Yes.
And you
It
voted?
was my case.
and you voted for it?
I voted for it, yes, because it was in compliance with the comp plan. It was not out of the guidelines. We used we use it as a guideline. We understand.
But you use it as a guideline when it fits the need of the council or the planning commission and the supervisors. When it doesn't suit your need, you don't use it. And that's one of the complaints I think a lot of us have, is that you're not consistent in the way in which the comp plan is being used and applied. And Jim just mentioned, and that was another question I had, was what's the status of Old Lee Road and Braddock? That jug handle.
Well, she's asked the transportation advisory. Next week.
Well, I will, but again, this was something that would I would think would go through you at some point in the planning commission.
Well, it's gonna go through the transportation. We're gonna collaborate, and then if it's a hearing, if it's a public hearing, it's an application that has to go through, it will come to us.
All right.
Let me tell you that.
Wait, no, I'm not done.
On that very point, Jay, when I left, before I left the Transportation Advisory Commission, I had stressed to Kathy, that there needed to be a better access point to the Westfields Park from Lee Road. I didn't specify what interchange it should look like, but I said that interchange backs up people leaving and coming. It's a point of industry, of commercial, and that we needed a better entrance from the west. Whether and how it was generated was another question, but I said that that intersection deserved to be improved. It's detrimental to people living and working. That was my advice as a transportation.
And something that relates to your responsibilities as member of the planning commission and looking at the comprehensive plan. Remember that the county transportation plan is an element of the county comprehensive plan.
Yes.
The current transportation plan does show a better connection above Lee Road, going across
The dog park.
the wetlands and the dog park. Is it an expensive project? Yes, it is. Is it a project that better fits what has happened in Loudoun County with Braddock Road? Yes, it does. But that seems to have been totally forgotten about.
If I remember those meetings, the plan now is like 20 million. The comprehensive plan is 80 million plus. So another 20 years, we'll get it. Because they're not gonna come up with $80 million.
Well, I could argue both ways on that, but I think.
4,000 cars.
Well, all right, but I think you look at it and say Fairfax County is one of the member jurisdictions of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, set up by state law. We have a special gas tax component that feeds into that. NVTA says, well, they've got two pots of money they come out of, one big pot, and it gets split. Here are projects that have regional impact benefits, and here are things that are more localized impacts and benefits. You know, I try to follow that, but I think it seems very unclear of exactly how some of those decisions and recommendations are being made with inputs from Fairfax County. One would hope that the recommendation would say, let's put our resources that we get as a county towards improvements on the comprehensive plan for transportation. There are some sections that we have, one in particular, I live in Franklin Farm. So the north side of Franklin Farm is a section of West Ox Road. Classic, old, follow the lay of the land, mostly 2 lanes. A couple times it's been widened marginally, maybe a lane here, a lane there for the developer. But you look at the county comprehensive plan, it says, no, that should be an improved 4-lane collector roadway. So say, okay, why hadn't that been done? I think personally, the reason it hadn't is, well, that's a boundary road, partly in Sully, partly in the next northern supervisory district. So neither one of them says it doesn't really benefit me. I'll forget about it. There are other pieces like that all over the place. Frying Pan Road is another one. So that one is one that's a classic old narrow 2-lane road. And if you look up at the intersection with Centerville Road, it was improved for a couple hundred yards. If you look at it from Route 28 over, it was improved. Part of it for the new residential development, but it's that half-a-mile section in between. It's still the old, unsafe, narrow 2-lane road.
It's and thousands of houses
Yeah,
are going in at the intersection.
right, right. And
It's Flores United Methodist.
yeah, and I, yeah,
Yeah, Flores, it's right there, that
Right.
half a mile stretch.
right, yeah. And I look at that and say, yeah, it's in Drainsville. And I look at that and say, okay, that's a failure of the people in Drainsville to really push it. But why isn't county DOT pushing that? I mean, there are ways I know the traditional thing is, oh, the developer only has to pay for the improvements on his half of the road. He's putting in a development. I've worked in the public sector and the private sector. I think that is a stupid decision, stupid philosophy. Better philosophy is one that I know other jurisdictions use. Say, no, we the jurisdiction will make that improvement if you have a missing link like that. We'll figure out how much money it costs us per linear foot. And then you, the developer, come in, you will repay us that amount of money for the improvement we made on your behalf.
And when we, as a Sully District Council, made the recommendation that road be approved, it was not any of our business. It's north of our factory.
So it didn't get done.
Well,
No.
the point being, not only
Wasn't
did we
even
not-
considered.
we got, now, up here on the screen, and I'll put us back up there because this, we should stop this. We have Jahan, and Jahan joined us.
She was one of the ones that fought for
To what
the
I,
Hunterville nursing home.
I could hear some of what Lou was saying about Braddock, and I think my point procedurally was that if we're going to disregard the comprehensive plan, and I think Braddock is an example of that, where in 2 big ways, the comp plan was ignored. There ought to be an amendment to the comp plan. There ought to be a public hearing, and citizens ought to have notice and an opportunity to be heard, not just hear from the supervisor that she thinks safety is the top priority, and so she's going to ignore the comp plan. And that's how it works. The comp plan, I think, gives people expectations that the county is going to follow it. And something like Braddock Road, which the what we called the Dick Frank Amendment, or the realignment, was one big thing, and that was worked out carefully many years ago, and it's been trashed. And the straightening out of the S-curve and beefing up Braddock down to 28 had always been a debate between, I think, the Supervisor Letourneau and Loudon, and the Loudon folks that want to make Braddock more of a commuter connection to the 2866 exit. And I think the Fairfax comp plan, which was trying to deflect the Loudon traffic out of the Braddock corridor, Again, if the comp plan says this is how we're going to do it, the board always has the power to bust the plan with 6 votes. But it would be better if we had a comp plan amendment first on things like that that are so important.
So
Maybe I'm preaching to the choir.
you are speaking to us into the choir. And we were talking a little bit about Hunterville Road and the medical or assisted living facility up there.
Yeah.
So do you want to say anything? Put yourself off mute.
Well, I did. I mean, I thought the citizens, if it hadn't been for the citizens, the result might have been very different. And the value of having so many people looking at it carefully, I think, came up with a legitimate problem that they couldn't put the septic field where that stream really was, that the engineer had left off the drawings the second time around.
Jan, do you want to say anything? John, you're on mute. You're on mute. Mute. Turn yourself off mute.
There we are.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Hello, everyone. Just to your comment on Hunter Mill Road, Jim, and the septic field that was too close to Angelico Run, there is now a by right subdivision that has gone in, well, that is trying to locate in there. And here's something that should go before the supervisors. There was that conservation easement, that 2.5 acre matching conservation easement that was given to the county by the Zoroastrian Church to match that was given by the Unitarian Church and is still in place today. That was such a priority in Barbara Byron's mind when she was heading up all of that environmental work to create that environmental corridor at the headwaters of Difficult Run and Angelico. That conservation easement was expunged. That 2.5 acre conservation easement was expunged. Now, how valuable is that land on Hunter Mill Road in Fairfax County? $1 million? Is that how much that's worth? Probably. And yet it was done without any notification to the public. And I can't begin to tell you how wrong I think it is, and everybody who worked in that project and now knows about that expungement. We are very, very deeply troubled. And that was done on staff recommendation. It was done based on the opinion that because the development didn't happen, that conservation easement was meaningless. Well, then, I think
John, that was my understanding, that the conservation easement was part of the BZA approval. And when that fizzled out, they were back to a clean slate. And so it went away. It had to do with stormwater, and it wasn't like a deed of easement that's recorded and it runs to the Board of Supervisors. They were treating it as sort of a lesser variation of that, something like that. That was my understanding.
That was the argument that they made, but there were two different parts to the conservation easement. One was stormwater, and there has been no, if you go, I personally researched the history of stormwater expungements, conservation easements expungements, and I think in all of the years that they've been given, I think that there were 5 or something that totaled up to a total of 0.25 acres or some nutty number like that. Yet here we have 2.5 acres that were
5
given,
times that.
and it was not, that was not stormwater. There was also overlain on that a pure conservation easement. So in any event, a bunch of us are very troubled about that and that there was no notification to citizens. And citizens do have a vested interest in the safety of our water supply and the establishment of environmental corridors, which was supposed to be so dreadfully important to our health, safety, and welfare. So
Remember
That
that
area.
parcel is in the Hunter Mill district across from Sully. The Sully residents were involved because it was across the street from Sully.
And those folks are all on wells over there.
Right, so
Almost
the
every-
water would go either way of the well, so it made no difference that it was across the street. So
but
thank you very much.
Hey, Evelyn,
Okay, any more questions, comments?
just one more. And maybe I haven't seen the statistics and maybe you got them. Teleworkers. In 2019, I think our telework force was pretty small. Allegedly, it's really large. It's affecting commercial space. I mean, you guys are trying to generate revenue from data centers because you're losing commercial space. Now it's a casino. Do we have an accurate? You're trying to make up the delta, right? You're trying to make up the county's trying to make up the delta and losing the commercials.
We're going to automatically agree with the casino, that's all.
Yeah, that's off the table. But still, there was this perception. Well,
It's postponed for a year.
do we really have an accurate count of how many teleworkers are in the county now? Like, I haven't seen any surveys. Like, is it 20% now or 30% of the workforce is teleworking? I can't believe, like, how can you run economic plans? and
Well,
look at-
but they must know what's the vacancy rate.
Yeah, but I mean, how many teleworkers do we have in our communities now? Is it, in 2019, it was 10%, now it's 40%?
I can tell you at the company that I was working, it's called Spence's, we're in Falls Church. We were small, 200 people. When COVID came forth, when it
Yeah.
was full blown in 2020, they shut down.
Yeah.
I believe it was
March.
Yes, and the entire office went to telework.
Right, but in February 2024,
They are still, the entire office, except for some support staff.
okay. And President Biden has ordered every cabinet secretary to bring everybody back to work. He's ordered them to do it. They're tired of DC being empty. And,
Well, let me argue that as a federal employee. I telework 2 days a week. My office is over in Loudoun County, around Ashburn. If you look at federal agencies, a lot of them are kind of in a situation like that too. 2 days telework, the other 3 in the office, spread out over the different agencies, different days of the week and such. Is that a big chunk of the downtown employment in Washington, D.C.? Yes, it is. Is it the only employment in Washington, D.C.? No, it is not.
Contractors make up the other part.
Yeah, you look at the contractors and the lobbyists, everybody along K Street and all those other lettered and numbered streets that pivot off of K Street. They're having the same issues and problems. Especially when they can look at it and say, well, yeah, we're getting the same productivity out of our staff. And if we can get a deal where we can cut back the amount of space that we have and save some money, we're going to do that.
Businesses in Metro are suffering.
Businesses in Metro are suffering. They are. But I think you're saying that, okay, we had a once in 100-year recorded pandemic worldwide. So the whole rest of the world's got problems like this too.
Exactly.
And I think our country supposedly has come back better than a lot of other countries have.
Well, the economy is doing well, but
Yeah.
it's the local economies that are.
Sure, they are.
yeah, I remember VDOT came to us like 2 years ago. They said the model, we asked about telework, goes, oh, we don't take that consideration for the model. Aren't you guys on telework? I mean,
Yeah.
like that should be affecting your transportation planning. It should be affecting your land use. Like I said, I'm gonna make up a number. 40% of our workers are teleworking, and it was 10% in 2019 or some number, a very large number. Seems like it should be affecting everything, like how you plan. around our neighborhoods, our commercial space,
Well, and it does.
but I don't see an accurate, I haven't heard, like, maybe you do guys have accurate numbers? Like some kind of,
I don't, the
yeah,
planning commission itself does not. but
really,
I-
you've never seen a number showing
I've not seen the
in
number.
2023 or something, wait a couple years after COVID, not.
Unfortunately,
Right,
unfortunately, it's gonna take longer to react to such a change.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time you.
yeah,
get
because the
back
planning
to it,
process is, yeah, yeah.
Things could be totally different.
But yeah, everybody says, everybody tells it works every transportation day would be like a federal holiday. Well, I was just on 66 earlier. I didn't see a difference on.
I didn't.
It's bumper to bumper.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
um,
So where are the teleworkers? Like, I mean, when
But
we
there
keep-
are still a number of organizations that tell.
yeah, I just
It's
think
more or less the federal government that is requiring the folks.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
come in. I don't know who else. And as I look at other opportunities out there, a lot of them are saying they want to bring people back on site.
right, because they're realizing it's not working the way they thought. Now, I give the parents, because they're saving about $500 a week on childcare if they're not doing a daycare, because they're watching their kids and walk around laptop around the house. That happens. The federal government's against the law, but they've done it. There's supervisions for it. As full disclosure, I'm also a federal worker. 2019, that was legal. Then in 2020, they waived it because the daycare shut down. But the parents got support. So it's really hard to bring it back. I mean, daycare is expensive. I think it's probably like $300 or $400 a week.
So it's more.
It's more
Yeah.
than-
Yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah, from a baby to a 5-year-old, I mean, it varies, but I'm just saying, they don't want to come back because they gotta pay for daycare. Plus wear and tear in the car, gas and everything else. So I'm just curious, like how many people are teleworking in this county? I haven't yet seen good staff.
I can do I can inquire about it, but that's not something I've seen.
Okay, that's interesting. It's quite a commissioner. You might say that.
In fact, they're gearing us more towards housing, the new development of the housing because of the demand. But we're at a loss for commercial businesses because of telework.
Yeah,
Working. That's the issue that we face.
yeah. It seems like you guys want the data.
We have many vacant,
I can check. I really
Yeah,
like to-
yeah.
we have many vacant commercial buildings.
Like right over here.
Yes, ma'am. That can be converted because they did it at Skyline. They did it at Skyline, converted that into a huge complex for housing and retail at the ground level. Why we can't do that around here is beyond me.
Of course,
And it's one of these things where we've looked for a golden goose, and for a long time it was commercial real estate. And we've allowed all this commercial real estate building to go on. Then now that golden goose has stopped laying those golden eggs, we're looking for a new golden goose. And they happen to be data centers. And with quantum mechanic or quantum computing, some other things that are coming, including AI, my guess is within 5 to 10 years, that golden goose will stop laying its golden eggs. And we're chasing casinos now. And you shake your head no, and I'll talk to Kathy, she'll shake her head no. You talk to McKay, he'll shake his head no. But in their mind, and I don't know if you've seen,
No, because I know the result, what will happen when you have the casinos. I lived in Delaware. I know what it does to the community. I know what it does to individuals.
that's the part that I'm worried about. It doesn't.
But that's not our role. That's.
Yeah, that's not my.
I know it's not, but yeah. The other point that I wanted to make, if I can, I asked this question of Kathy and I asked this question of the commissioner, not the commissioner, but the board of supervisors. When we talked with each one of the board of supervisors, Steve and I went around and talked to each one of the board of supervisors. We asked them this question. Why isn't there a business case or a business analysis or an impact study of some sort conducted by the county executive, the controller, whatever he calls him, or right? that never looks at the economics of these decisions that they're making. I don't know, and you're a business person, you know that if you're going to make a business decision, you're going to look at the economics of that decision. Not one time has anybody admitted that they do one. How can you have a business and recommend things like data centers, like this casino, like any of these decisions that this Board of Supervisors make without having a business case, without knowing the revenues coming in and the expenses to the county for that decision? And it should be so broad-based that they would include every possible source of revenue and every possible source of expense or cost to the county. There are so many hidden costs in what they propose. They were saying data centers are going to give them $6 million or $4 million worth of money. Well, what's the cost? Nobody knows.
It's interesting that Fairfax County is trying to catch up to Loudon, and Loudon's putting a stop to it. It's not enough.
Yeah.
We are the largest in the world.
Yeah. And that's another challenge too, because Loudon is slowing down. They're saying they've got enough, and I think they probably do. Fairfax is still trying to get some. Then you got our friends in Prince William with that urban crescent. What was the rural crescent now becoming the urban concrete crescent. That's some phenomenal square footage of data centers. And they said, oh, look at all this money that's going to come in. Well, is it going to be here for 5 years? For 10 years? It's going to be beyond that? Maybe yes, maybe no.
I mean, purpose Thursday.
So here, Prince William County took off its connector from it to Loudoun County off its books 5 or 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Made no sense to take it off in the Loudoun County chair told Prince William, "You're cutting your nose to spite your face." That would be worse. The other item is we have in Jeff McKay's letter to the legislature about casinos, he talked about process. He didn't say no. He said the process is.
Right.
But that's the George Bernard Shaw story. He asked the ladies who next to him at dinner, well, would you sleep to me for $1 million? He said, I consider it. What about $50? Well, what lucky the lady do you take me to be? We've already established that fact. We're now just quibbling about price. He didn't object to it. He said it was a process problem. Well, we can solve a process problem. You've given up. You've already said that we would do it if you meet my requirements. And those requirements can be negotiated. So that was a letter that many people did not like because he didn't say no. He says the process is wrong.
Follow
And
the
that
money.
can be negotiated, is what I'm saying.
Follow the money.
And the third item, what we're talking about is the Westfield Business Park that you've become a member. We in Sully District Council have worked with the Business Council. They've been Bob or Bill.
Bill.
Has been at our meetings since the last millennium. And we understand what they're going through and we understand that they need to do things. We had 2 or 3 points that we were concerned about. The first one was the county did not adopt the recommended 2017 or 2019
Airport
Douglas
costs.
Airport noise contours. And they let parcels develop that if they had been reclassified, would have been over the 65 dBA, but they went through the old plan and they were allowed. And those poor people who will be living in an area that they would not, and should not be living in now, will still be living there, even though the dBA is above the tolerance that is allowed. But we allowed that to happen.
Amwar keeps on objecting.
Yes, and in addition to that, we said, okay, but there are other areas where you can put residential and we'd be happy with that. But this development wasn't built with pedestrian sidewalks on either side of the main roads or many of the roads. And therefore, if we want people to have a pedestrian way to get from Conference Center Drive to the shops over here, the sidewalks on the west side of the road, the people live on the east side. Well, we need to have sidewalks on both sides of the road. And if you, as the property condominium, want to propose residential throughout your community, then you need to put sidewalks on both sides. And it's your responsibility as the co-op in charge of everything, that all of you need to contribute to this, because it's all in this area. It's not the Marriott's responsibility to put the sidewalk along its area. Just north of the police station, which is right here, the sidewalk ends. Okay? And Marriott is just up there. The large unnamed government agency that Google reports as being an FBI data center, okay, is there. But those people might want to come here. You don't want them to drive back and forth. You want them to walk. There are restaurants here. They can walk in. It's not that distance. There's no sidewalk. But that was one of the things that we in the Sully District Council and our Western Fairfax brothers and sisters said, that when you're building these residential developments in the community, you need to put the pedestrian access points in to begin with. I mean, there are residential areas going in now, and there's still no pedestrian access. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, and that's a valid concern. And part of it, I'll take some of the responsibility. I was not present, maybe at the meeting where you voiced these concerns, and then.
No, you weren't even the, Kathy might not have been the supervisor.
Okay. But we can make those kind of requests going forward before we, like for the Agape House, you said it was okay. I know.
No, we said the concept was okay. The details is in what we're waiting for now.
Okay, so we're asking for sidewalks, for crosswalks, for signs to, slow them down for better access around the area. So sidewalks around, we can make those concerns and
But Emma objects to that location.
They say,
because we're not going to get everything we want all the time, but that is a legitimate.
so
Well,
We
and-
haven't gotten anything we've asked for out of Kathy. We have, it has been a long time where she has agreed or supported anything we've asked her to do. Everything that 5 developments around here have gone in, and we objected to every one of them.
because of the noise.
Because
not
of the noise.
because of where they were going,
Every
but
one of them,
because of the
every
noise.
data center she's objected to, every road improvement she's objected to. She developed this jug handle on her own because of her experience living in New Jersey. I don't care about how they drive in New Jersey. I've driven in Italy where every other street you go down, it's a circle. But I don't want to have to do that in Virginia.
So
And I'm sorry, I applaud you for sitting here listening to us. I really do.
She's a She's a point official.
Well,
We're just telling you.
one of the, I think one of the fundamental problems, personal opinion about this, is that we keep seeing and hearing that Fairfax County is growing, developing, we want to make it more urban-like. Okay. I grew up in a city in West Virginia, and when I was there, it was like 25, 30,000 people, Parksburg. A defining characteristic of a city is you have sidewalks on both sides of the street. The way most suburban areas used to develop is they never had sidewalks at all. Then they grudgingly said, okay, we'll put them on one side. Where I live in Franklin Farm, we have sidewalks on one side of the street, which is really silly, but it's better than nothing.
We have them on one side.
All right, and I think that's something to say, and that's something to say, okay, well, that's something where through the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance and the county's, all the other plans and procedures and processes say, no, from this point on, every residential street, every commercial street will have sidewalks on both sides. Point 1. Point 2, we will then go back and put sidewalks on the other side of those streets where they do not exist. Or we will stop calling ourselves an urban place. Can't have it both ways.
So Lewis is right. I live in Chantilly Highlands. I worked at EDS, and I worked behind Nyquist School. And the EDS drive, Ed's drive, behind Nyquist has no sidewalk. And I would walk on it going from my house to EDS and go, what the heck? Why is there no sidewalk on this full length divided road where traffic is going as fast as it wishes to go and there's no sidewalk there? How did they allow Nyquist to build on this road and not have a sidewalk? So there's no way to get from his community, our community, to these office parks. I was walking 4 miles a day. Walked a mile to work, go home for lunch, walk a mile back, come home and did it 4 miles a day. No sidewalk. Was I upset? Especially when it was snowing and nobody had any, it's grass. What do you need? So I'm supposed to walk.
If it was a sidewalk, it wouldn't have been plowed either, so.
No, it would have been on there. If they were a business, they would have taken care of the sidewalk on their property. That is my assumption.
Maybe.
But there was no sidewalk. It's just grass and trees. And I was upset. And even today, there is now the old Cox facility along Centerville Road, between Centerville Road and Ed's Drive, where the Cox cable offices used to be. Okay, now they're gonna put residential there. We approved it, but we said that private drive between the two areas needs to be made into a road. It can't be what it is now, because there are gonna be hundreds, if not thousands of people living on this, and it's not a road. It's just an access point between these two groups. And if you're gonna put all this residential development there, they need to do that, and they need to put.
Jeff?
Is a concern. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, our guest has been in the hot seat for an hour and a half. And I think we appreciate very much her coming and listening tonight. Maybe we should thank her for sitting for this long and hope that we can build on this discussion going forward.
So let us applaud Jim for being the wise man of the group.
Yes, thank you, Jim. But before, and I appreciate his comments, and I also appreciate your comments that I'm hearing, the frustration. Okay? And so one of the things I will look forward to or do some research on is the Hickory Forest Park. I do have a plan to go around and see all the parks in particularly our area. But I will talk to the park,
Whoever that person happens to be.
the director of the park.
And the Sully District Parks Authority member, whoever he, she, it may be.
Yes, yeah, I have Maggie, but it's not Maggie. Maggie has moved up.
Okay.
So I will try to find out who the park authority is for
I
Sully.
know she has in the Sully, Deb's simplified it. I don't know.
So we'd like to hear, oh, you wanted to hear about, the duties of each of Kathy's appointed.
We have that.
You want to be the person.
We will invite people. One of the things I asked for is the fact that their blurb on their website was not copyable. So when I wanted to copy the information about Joe Blow, who was appointed such and such, the text wasn't cut and paste. So you couldn't really extract that information and say, meet James Smith, because the text wasn't. Yeah, why would you put text as an image? Never mind. Well, I'm just.
Me.
Why would you put text as an image and make it not copyable? As opposed to.
What is it that you're
No,
requesting?
I'm going to say, no, we're not asking you. We're saying is that we will go back to the process of inviting, as we have, you and other members who have been appointed to address our body and tell us what you do for a living.
If we have a good, accurate list of who those individuals are.
I'm sure that exists on Kathy's website.
Yes, it should. It should. I think it's just been it could have been a concern. We didn't know what to expect.
We don't bite.
Right, and so now I'm a prime example. They can come and say, look, we had Evelyn, we had Karen, we had a discussion. It's not going to be agreeable all the time, but we need to hear your thoughts and your concerns. And that's all that you're requesting of the person who represents them.
Correct.
What you did was great. A day in the life of a planning commission and a day in the life of a housing and redevelopment commissioner.
Right.
Or the day in the life of Joe Blow's work in that.
And what I can do is just like share that type of, that thought process with Kathy, so maybe,
Yeah.
you know, not Kathy, Supervisor Smith, so
Right.
that maybe we can,
Either way,
for that. The other thing was, he wanted to know what the percentage of citizens who telework. So I'll see if I can find that out. And what are the economic decisions in our business cases? So you wanted to make sure that the county exec, when he makes these decisions, what's the cost? What's the revenue?
Business case.
and one of the things, you know, that you, what Lewis has mentioned earlier, is sometimes we out in the hinterland of Sully don't believe that we are an urban county out here. That the whole county is not an urban county. There are portions of the county that are urbanized. But the county is not and should not be considered.
Does not want to be.
Well, as Jay says, it doesn't necessarily
I
want to
don't
be,
want
but
to
it
be
isn't.
urban.
Well, and that if you live in, let's say, Annandale, where everything is paved, and others in Tyson's Corner, and others along the
Route 1. maybe.
Route 1 corridor or the 267 corridor out the Dulles corridor. But there are vast swathes of land that aren't urban. And the fact that they're not urban should be respected. And the guidance that the county gives should be for those areas that are urban rather than for the urban county of Fairfax, which is this case. And every time we hear that, we get upset. And we had a strategic plan presentation, if you remember. Every slide we saw was developed land. And I asked her, I said, if this is representatives of Fairfax County, where are the vistas of residential communities that coexist with this? You're showing us the urbanness of Fairfax. You're not showing us Fairfax. You're showing us a biased view. And we look at that and saying that you don't have us in consideration because we don't live in those areas. And you're telling us that you're not planning for us because you're not showing us as where we live. And that was the thought that I had, that I expressed.
Well, you're right. And there are areas of Fairfax County that are not well developed right now and probably should not be ever, like the Occoquan watershed area. So if you're south of Braddock Road, theoretically, that land is to be preserved basically the way it is. If there is any development, it's like, okay, one house on a minimum 5-acre lot or larger.
Difficult Run watershed is another example. And that's in the center between 7 and 50,
Right.
that whole swath of area. But it's not a fully urbanized county. And to describe it such to us when we hear it, when Jay hears that word, it brings.
It does. I moved to Fairfax because I didn't want to live in a city. I don't live in cities.
We don't want to be all
Yeah.
in county.
Yeah, if you look, an example, I don't know how familiar you are with, but Montgomery County, Maryland.
Jim was ready. He thought he had you out of here.
Yeah, but Montgomery County, Maryland is like that. They're very firm about, these are the areas we will allow development in. These are the areas we will not, in the northern third or so of the county. And there's been a lot of pressure to develop that. And they keep saying, no. You know, you come up to the Frederick County line, you can see it starting again. But Montgomery County is saying, no.
When you move to an area that's like where it's been.
Yeah.
It's been zoned for 5 and 10 acre lots.
Sure.
You expect, that's what the zoning is. You move there, so you expect that'll be the way it will be.
So they
None of
allow,
us here live in 5 to 10 acre lots. Be certain of that. None of us do.
No, none of us do.
I understand. Move to this section for a reason. Don't want to be.
and we don't want ALUs
And,
What do we live? Okay, you
in
know,
my backyard.
we don't mind them if there's proper infrastructure for them. Has the housing, has the parks, have the schools, have the transportation improvements been made to allow the additional density to be, that you're now allowing to be considered. In my subdivision in Chantilly Highlands, we had a bus that went along Chantilly North Circle. It was removed, half of the bus service was removed when the reconfiguration was made as the opening of the Silver Mile. So much of the community that was in a quarter of a mile of the bus is now a mile or 3/4 mile away. So in essence, they don't take the bus anymore, even if they could, because the bus doesn't run there anymore. So having a bus as a rationale for increasing density is an invalid reason because the buses can be moved. They're not permanent. Rail, and even rail, ask all the people who live along the trolley line of Old Dominion Road. Or Electric Avenue, which was the trolley line there. They can come and go. That's 100 years in the past, but trolleys come.
I've seen a lot of change. I moved here in 1971. So I've seen a lot of change. And if you're familiar with the intersection of Wax Pool and Loudoun County Park.
Oh, my God.
I don't want to be surrounded by data centers.
There's a big data center right on the corner. I was just there this last month.
It used to be the AOL campus out there.
It was out there by itself.
Yeah.
Just off of 28. It's a mess.
Look, Evelyn,
I can
thank
take these concerns, thank you. I
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Your concerns, I will go out and coordinate with Jay. On the answers to your questions may not be tomorrow, but I promise I will get the answers. And then two, I'll try to make more of the third
Monday.
Third Monday.
Third Monday, yeah, I will. try
And
to
we,
make
you
those.
get our agendas.
Yes, I do. And I do look at them and then consider it when we're looking at the application. Because I remember I just reached out to you. What did you say about?
And that was-
XYZ?
And that was the plan amendment a year ago. And we are now, the last time we actually had the implementation plan amendment. And we, as I said in front of the planning commission, the board of supervisors, when they had the A gap coming in front of them, I said, the devil's in the details. We have many concerns. We're not against the plan amendment. The rezoning is going to be what makes it break.
Right. And so I will make sure that I'm at that meeting and make sure that your concerns are represented before we recommend or not recommend approval of that.
And with that in
And
mind,
moving forward, same.
we thank you for that. And I'll tell you later, but I always think, how would I as a pedestrian move from point A to point B? And if you're telling me you got to go up 2 blocks to make a turn and come down again, I say no pedestrian in their right mind will do that. And when you plan it that way, you're planning for failure. And we do in Fairfax County say, well, here's the crosswalk. Yeah, but here's a big house, a big development. Here's the attractive nuisance. And they're not going to walk up a block, cross and down a block. They're going to run across the street.
Like the Duke going across the street into Wegmans.
What's that?
Like the Duke going across the street into Wegmans. They cross right in the middle of the street.
That's it. That's it.
Right.
Right now,
They don't care.
see where that new development is being built. I went to Wegmans today, but yet Chipotle is on the 4 north of that little segment. People are not going to walk down to the crosswalk. They're going to go to Chipotle. They're going to run across. And
We did raise that, but it got.
and for example, if you've been to the Sully Community Center,
Yes.
okay, we live in Chantilly Highlands. We walk across Kinross, across Atlantis, and then when you get to the Air and Space Museum Parkway interchange, there's no crosswalk to get from those apartment complexes to the Sully Community Center. There's no crosswalk. There's no dividing of the middle of the road, whatever it's called. Median. People walk across it all the time, and they say, well, there's a crosswalk up there, there's a crosswalk up there, but I'm a pedestrian. I'm not going to walk the 2 blocks back and forth. And you want all the people from Chantilly Highlands to walk, and you want all the people in the apartment complex to go there, and you don't have a safe way for them to cross the Air and Space Museum Parkway, which is, and the last item is, I'm from New York, right? If you have a house that has a walkway to a street, and there are no parking signs there, the assumption is you can park there. But you can't park in the Air and Space Museum Parkway. But on the Air and Space Museum Parkway, on that parkway itself,
By the house?
you go north of Atlantis, and you'll see that the townhouses have little walkways right to the Air and Space Museum parkway. Their house, now they have parking in the back, but they have a walkway in the front. And there's no sign on the Air and Space Museum parkway that says no parking here. And if I'm looking at townhouses and have a walkway to the street, my New York frame of mind says I park right there because there's no sign that says no parking. But it's a through route. That's 2 lanes of traffic.
Right, absolutely, right.
And I would, from out of town, I'd pull it, park there, and somebody would run into me, but there's no sign that says no parking. And I want to park here, walk into the house, so I can press it.
Well, that's another issue that comes up too. I mean, it's somewhat unique to Virginia because every public street in the Commonwealth of Virginia is owned and maintained by the Commonwealth of Virginia, including the street in front of my house in Franklin Farm.
All of our streets in Virginia are owned. We
Yeah.
don't own those streets.
Yeah, it's same thing.
No.
They're not counting this, these roads.
Yeah, so there, I mean, and that's something where the general philosophy of Virginia DOT is that, no, if you have public roads, you don't park along them unless it's within a city. Fine city, okay, we have a deal with the city traffic engineers and the city planning departments to allow parking with certain regulations in certain places. You know, you get the situation up in the Reston Town Center, because those streets are owned by Boston Management.
That's why they can charge parking.
Which is why they can charge parking and why they have on-street curb parking.
But even, we have on-street, Virginia Road, you have on-street parking.
Yeah.
Franklin Farm, you have street parking. Chantilly Highlands, you have on-street parking. I'm certain U Street has on-street parking.
Yeah.
So why would I think these townhouses that have a walkway right to the street don't have on-street parking?
Right. It's an inconsistency. It's an
Yeah.
inconsistency.
It's just, now, we will mention this to Karen, who's a Transportation Advisory
Yes.
Commission. But my point being is,
And then they should bring it up when we can have these concerns when we have new developments coming in.
we express graciously.
Continue to do so, and I'll be here to hear
Thank you
your
so much.
concerns.
All right, with that, I am formally reminding people, we will meet 9 days hence, Karen Camplin, and the question about affordable dwelling units, whatever that thing I mentioned earlier on our website.
Accessory living
We're not
units.
accessory dwelling units, whatever it is.
Accessory living.
It's not accessory dwelling
I
unit,
don't
it's
know what
something
in the
else.
back of my house. I don't want in the
Workforce,
back of my yard.
workforce dwelling units, WDU, which is different, okay? And next month, we think we're co-sponsoring with Kathy and Seema, the budget meeting on the Sadie Hawkins Day.
The 29th.
Yes. All right. And with that in mind, everybody, see you in 8 days, 9 days. Evelyn, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
And we hope
Slings and arrows.
that we will continue to have
Been very
this
gracious.
Gentlemen, though.
Oh, we are. We're not a bunch of nasty old men. We're just.
Hey, Jeff.
Go ahead. It depends who we're talking to.
Hey, Jeff,
Go ahead.
I was gonna change the subject. I can't
Go ahead.
see your shirt, but it looks like Steve and Jay and Lou and I all got the same memo.
No, I did not get the same.
Close,
Okay.
close.
I did not get the same information. Wait, here we go.
All right, well, I can't see, so it doesn't matter, I guess.
Here you go.
I guess not, no.
I'm wearing a vest from Ireland and a shirt that my wife told me was in fact a denim shirt, and it should have been one of my denim jacket, but I don't know if it's.
I'm looking at Jimmy's
All right.
shirt. I do have one exactly like.
I did not get the plaid room.
Next time.
I think I've got it. One close.
All right, everybody, guys. Next time, send a memo around like how we're supposed to be dressed, so we know that. No reds, no. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Jim, you need anything? Should I close it or you got anything?
You happen to know who's putting in all these fiber lines?
Thank you again.
Is that the different